Hey guys, Yuri K here. In this video, I will cover the keto diet, also known as the ketogenic diet. The ketogenic diet, by definition, is the kind of diet where our body goes from using glucose for energy to oxidizing fat for energy. So how does this happen? We have to go back to how the body manages its carbohydrates, and I have that information available in my previous video, which you can find in the info box down below. So basically, when we consume foods, our body will primarily break down carbohydrates to be used as glucose in the blood for energy, but will also convert proteins and fats into glucose as well to a lesser degree. When the protein is converted to glucose for energy, the process is known as gluconeogenesis. And when the fats are converted to glucose for energy, the process is known as lipogenesis. Once the body uses up the available glucose in the blood for energy, the brain will send a signal to the pancreas to produce a hormone known as glucagon, whose main purpose is to increase blood glucose levels. So glucagon will cause the glycogen that's stored in the skeletal muscles and the liver to be transported in the blood to be used as energy. Now, during the time that we are not consuming carbohydrates, the glycogen will eventually be used up, and now the body will need to find yet another source for energy. So what happens now? The body will produce a substance known as ketone bodies or ketones, which will give a signal to burn, you guessed it, fat for energy through a process known as ketosis, which is how the ketogenic diet got its name. Now with ketosis, we are forcing our bodies to burn fat as energy because we don't supply them with the carbohydrates needed to be converted to glucose for energy. And this is the state that we want to get into when we are in a ketogenic diet. Ideally, with the ketogenic diet, in order to maximize the fats burned for energy, we also want to be engaging in high intensity training, such as resistance training with weights, as well as circuit training, such as HIIT training, known as high intensity interval training. On the other hand, we have to keep in mind that restricting our carbohydrates for an extended period of time can actually cause our bodies to go into what's known as starvation mode and actually slow down the metabolism, causing us to store more fat. So we don't want to restrict our carbohydrate intake for an extended period of time, but only for a strategic period of time. At some point, we want to refeed our body with a high degree of complex carbohydrates in order to prevent it from slowing down metabolism and going into a catabolic, or what's known as a muscle wasting state, which means that it will be burning muscle for energy, which is what we don't want. We have to keep in mind that muscle is energy expensive and so requires a large number of calories to sustain it, and keeping muscle on the body is the most effective way of boosting overall metabolism. Another thing to consider with the ketogenic diet is that although we'll be performing it for a specific period of time, it's going to cause a permanent shift in our metabolisms, whereby even when we reintroduce carbohydrates back into our diet, our body will now become more efficient at burning fat for energy on a consistent basis as opposed to strictly carbohydrates. Our body will effectively manage the energy process by burning the appropriate proportions of fats and carbohydrates as needed, so that it will enable our bodies to prevent an excess storage of fat. Our bodies will know how to burn the carbohydrates, how to store them, and when to tap the fat stores when needed. We have to remember two things during the time that we are on the keto diet. Number one is that we have to remain in a caloric deficit. We have to keep our body in a slightly deficient state in terms of calories, because if we consume too many calories, it's going to cause us to come out of ketosis and store body fat. So by remaining in a slight caloric deficit, we will keep our bodies burning the fat while the resistance training, the weight training is going to keep our muscles strong and prevent us from losing size. So it will actually maintain our muscle mass. The other key component is we don't want to consume an excessive amount of proteins necessarily, because we have to remember that about 50% of the proteins that we eat will get converted to glucose anyway, and fat will get converted as well to a lesser degree to glucose. So if we again have too much glucose in our blood, it will defeat the purpose of ketosis, and the body will go back to using glucose for energy instead of burning the body fat. So and by having too much glucose in our blood, it will actually take us out of ketosis as well. So these are two pitfalls that we need to avoid when we're on the ketogenic diet and to keep it working for us. So this is the ketogenic diet as I explain it. Hope you guys liked the video. Please give me a thumbs up. Please comment, share the video, and subscribe. And stay tuned for more. Again, I'll have a follow-up video on 2 specific examples of programs that can use the ketogenic diet and carb manipulation process in order to maximize fat loss. So stay tuned for more. And again, please remember to follow me on Instagram down at the info box below at YuriK0877. Thanks guys. Bye.